Hi, everybody. I need your attention for just a few moments. We're all very excited today to welcome our Lieutenant Governor, and all of you, of course. You gave us a little agita. However, I'm glad to see all of you here. This is the 20th year of our wonderful organization, Reach Out America. And I would like the people on the executive board who have been with us a long time to stand up, please. So, I'd like to introduce you to our fantastic president, and I'm emotional about it because she's so good, Patty Katz.
Thank you. Who's better than Harriet Becker? Really. If you ever have an organization and you need somebody to run fundraising, she is the one to call. Fantastic, effective, and brutal. Okay. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. As she said, I'm Patty Katz. I have to put it down so I remember my name. I'm the president of Reach Out America. Thank you all for coming. This is our 20th anniversary. This is a big deal. We're very excited. Back in 2004, our co-founders, Fran Reed and the late Shirley Romaine, they took the helm. Yeah, Shirley Romaine, right? Along with a robust executive board. After several years, Sandy Sallet and the late Naomi Feldheim became our co-presidents, and then following them, Rita Hall. They all did such an outstanding job. When I joined the organization several years ago, many years ago, I remember Fran and Shirley saying, "You don't get to complain unless you do something." Right. And if you're going to do something, wait, this is the most important part. If you're going to do something, make it doable, measurable, and meaningful. That changed my life. And you know what? I realize I'm remiss because I really want to first acknowledge everybody here, and there are many leaders in our community that I'd like to please thank and acknowledge for being here. No specific order, and if I forget anyone, please just raise your hand and I'll say your name. This is always a kind of a thankless job. Rory Lanceman is here. He's the president of the Great Neck Library. Robert Zimmerman, who's our board member. He's on the Democratic National Committee, and what would we do without you, Robert? I don't know. We have the Great Neck School Board President, Rebecca Sassouni is here. We love you, Rebecca. We have Town Council women, Marianne Del Monte and Christine Lee. Thank you. We have Town of North Hempstead, former Town of North Hempstead town clerk and head of the the North Hempstead Democrats, Wayne Wink, who is also a former legislator. We have, former county legislator, Ellen Birnbaum. They couldn't be here. They were, Gina Saliti and Chuck Levine were supposed to be here, but they were up in Albany and they probably got detained. And Democratic Senator, the Senate candidates, Kim Kaiserman and Brad Schwartz. So thank you all for being here. So anyway, I was talking about being measurable, meaningful, and doable. Those two statements did change my life, and I'm so grateful for all of the passion and hard work that the past presidents and the boards gave to make this organization so vital today. The other thing I love about this organization is that even through the darkest of times, and we have had many, many dark times in the past 20 years, we've strived through mutual action, and we break through that darkness, we enter the light, and we come away feeling that we've made a difference and we have some hope. I'd like to take a moment to thank our present board. Harriet did, but I just want to, you don't have to stand up, but I just wanted to say for a few people, because our vice president, Jeanette Frickhold, she has done such a yeoman's job this year. She sends out all of the actions, all of the meeting announcements. She spearheaded over 10,000 postcards to candidates federally and locally, and she's now also our treasurer. Speaking of which, Joan Estices is here, a former board member who was our treasurer, who gave us many years of devotion and insight. We've got, let's see, Josie Pizer, who's now our secretary. Rita Hall, a past president, she's branded us and designs all of our, whatever we need, our ads, anything. She's just so talented, and she gives us all of that freely. Let's see, who else? Robert Zimmerman. Robert, I don't know what we would have done without all of your contribution to our board. You have been outstanding throughout the years, and we really appreciate it. And did I forget anybody besides Nina? There you are. I'm looking for you over there. You're not there. And what I want, Nina Gordon worked so hard in this organization, among other things, and don't forget the cat shelters, right? And besides that, Nina also, I want to thank you for your generosity of talent today. She offered to sing for us, and she, sings all over and gets paid quite a bit. So thank you so much for that donation as well. And last but not least, Harriet Becker again. Harriet she's remarkable. I can't say enough good things about her, and I love her very much. So please give a warm round of applause for all of our board. Thank you. Also, I want to thank Alan Mindell. He's the owner of the Inn at Great Neck and the Adria, and I want to thank him for his continuous generosity to this organization. Year after year, he never. Thank you, Alan, wherever you are. So for over 20 years, Reach Out America has been at the forefront of the most timely and important issues, educating and inspiring our members and the community with monthly meetings with guest speakers. They are always the cream of the crop in their field. Shortly after 9/11, our guest speaker was Isma Chaudhry. She's the director of the Islamic Center of Long Island, and she was discussing how our Muslim community was affected by 9/11. During COVID, we had the head of infectious diseases from Queens Hospital, Dr. Massey. This season, we had a 4-part environmental series that was remarkable. A few years ago, Attorney General Letitia James was here in this spot. We love Letitia James, and we get to call her Tish, which is really fun. And she spoke to us right when Trump was possibly being indicted. So we've heard from Congressman Tom Suozzi, Gary Ackerman, State Controller Tom DiNapoli, who we love, Assemblywoman Gina Saletti, and Michelle Schimmel, Town North Hempstead, I said Wayne Wink, Democratic, and Rabbi Sharon Kleinbaum, and she is the rabbi for the largest LGBTQ synagogue in the world. And this is just to name a few of our guests.
And he sang with Chuck Schumer.
That's coming. Thank you. I wouldn't forget that. That was one of the highlights. Yes, that's true. Thank you for clarifying that, Nina. We've had film series, we've had forums on topics such as voting machines, gun violence, where members of the Oath Keepers came to our meeting. White supremacists and the far alt, where a Proud Boy attended. Science and the Future series, which many years ago we discussed STEM and the future of AI. And we organized and brought food and clothing to people in need for Hurricane Sandy relief. In Great Neck, we organized rallies against gun violence, then a women's productive rights rally where Chuck Schumer surprised us, grabbed me by the shoulder, started singing with us, with Nina and I and Rita, and he sang with us, and then he gave a beautiful speech. So that was really a remarkable day. The times they are changing, and he sang, and he was on key, sang really well, by the way. Which you would appreciate too, Lieutenant Governor, right? And we've had several school board meet the candidates meetings, events. We were instrumental in the Great Neck Plaza and the Park District putting in recycle bins with our Green Committee, the town of North Hempstead doing a huge school recycling program, and many, many other important environmental actions. And recently we were instrumental in revitalizing the now very vibrant Great Neck Democratic Club, so ably led by Jody Cass. We are quietly behind the scenes of so many essential actions in our community. We are a small group, but our effect is mighty. We want to thank you all for coming today. And if you're not a member of Reach Out America, please join us. It's $45 for the year. It's the best deal in town. You get every meeting from September to May. You get a fundraiser at the end. Okay, but it's the best deal. It's really great. And we serve cookies and coffee at all of our meetings. And now we have Zelle, so you can't complain. But after the Lieutenant Governor speaks, we're going to do the raffle, so don't leave. And also, in lieu of questions and answers, he would really like to meet everybody and talk to everybody personally, which is really wonderful. So today we're very fortunate to have such a marvelous speaker. I heard the Lieutenant Governor last year in Port Washington at the Tom Swazi event with Jill Biden, and he spoke. And to say he was inspiring is an understatement. I was really blown away by his presence, his passion, his insight. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He's a Harvard Law School graduate. He had a career in the record industry. I used to be a singer and doing that, so I understand. He did a remarkable job as a congressman of the 19th District, where 18 of his bills were signed into law under 2 different presidents. That's a huge deal. Really, that's really huge. And he was recognized by various organizations throughout his tenure for his bipartisan work. He now is working hard as Lieutenant Governor, so it is my great honor to welcome Lieutenant Governor Antonio Delgado.
How's it going? Yes, indeed. Okay. I am thrilled to be here in your company, in your presence. I feel a lot of positive energy in the room, a lot of love, which is always nice. I want to thank Patty for your leadership and for your very kind words, and for reminding us in this room that the work is built upon a legacy of prior sacrifice and effort, and it's only because people's sustained commitment that these things can continue on. And I think it's always important to acknowledge and look back to understand where we are and where we're going. Harriet, thank you as well. Gave me an amazing greeting out front. Just lit my day up, so thank you so I appreciate that. To the entire board of Reach Out America and all of your incredible work. For 20 years, happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Certainly want to acknowledge my friend Rob Zimmerman. Thank you for reaching out and extending the invitation to be here, and just thank you for your kind-heartedness and thoughtfulness. I want to talk to you about our values and our principles, because sometimes we can get caught up in the left-right dynamic of things and the partisanship and the ideology and lose sight of the moral foundation. And I'm talking about just basic concepts, basic ideas: decency, fairness, justice, equality, freedom, integrity, compassion, truth, and love. These are very, very important values, and we can never lose sight of them, no matter how ugly the times may be. Now, for those who don't know, I was raised in Schenectady. Working class family. My parents worked for General Electric. I would be a latchkey kid, come home 10 years old, let myself in, do my homework. This was sort of my upbringing. And my dad preached hard work and discipline and taking responsibility for your actions and having character. Character was a big, big word in my household. He said, you say what you mean and you mean what you say. Don't cheat and don't lie. Now, my mother, she was more the disciplinarian in the house. Didn't want to get on her wrong side. And her focus was on love. And according to her, you didn't know love unless you knew God. And so I was in church a lot. I grew up in the church. I was a choir boy, I was an usher, I was in Bible school, I did vacation Bible school, I did it all. I was in church a lot. And I share this because this is my foundation as a public servant before anything else. These are the lessons that I was taught as a young man, trying to find my way. And it starts with the understanding that we have to know and recognize the power of this moral foundation that lies in every single one of us, and to not have it undermined or cracked. This is what this moment is actually about. Greed, in many respects, has become good. Selfishness, individualism, materialism, fame, celebrity, power have been normalized to the point of being viewed through the lens of good, like morally good things. They could be fun, they could be cool, but if we're talking about morality, they don't fit into that category. And when we talk about politics, I think what's happened over time is politics have become completely divorced from morality. Completely divorced from morality. But we have got to get back to a point where we're talking about not just politics, but our principles. What are our principles? Dr. King tells us that on the quest for power, I cannot bypass my concern for morality. On the quest for power, I cannot bypass my concern for morality. And yet we have a lot of leaders across this country who have made it their complete obligation to hold on to power for the sake of power at the expense of everything else. They've abandoned all sense of decency and integrity, and they're not lining up behind democracy. They're not lining up behind democracy. They are falling in line behind a megalomaniac. They are falling behind lying and cheating. And why? Why are they doing it? It's a simple explanation: to hold on to power. Remember, on the quest for power, you cannot bypass your concern for morality, because once you bypass it and you have power, all that matters at that point is power. And that power becomes destructive. Destructive, and it can destroy and it can harm. And this, my friends, is where we are. These folks line up behind this guy, ready to sell their souls just to get a taste of power and money. And they call themselves, they have the audacity to call themselves patriots. Want to put America first. It's disgusting. It just is. It just is. They can care less about order, the rule of law, truth, facts, freedom, equality, liberty, or fairness. None of it matters. None of it. They are what I would call moral cowards. All they care about is power. They know nothing about love of country and everything about lust for power. Now, I think it's important that we, in this room, who celebrate democracy, who understand that democracy ought to be thoughtful and compassionate and effective and justice-driven and anchored in the interest of people, all people. It's up to us in this room to restore that paradigm, to restore integrity back into the system, to overturn this notion that you could just flood our system with money at the expense of everyday folks. It's up to us in this room to remember that democracy is in fact a moral endeavor. It is a system built upon a moral foundation. Cannot forget that. It is built upon a moral foundation. At the heart of democracy is the recognition that there is equal dignity in each and every single one of us. Now you might say, well, okay, that sounds nice, but how does it play out practically? Well, there's a simple, practical way to understand it. One person, one vote. I mean, this is not rocket science. One person, one vote. That tells you what the moral foundation is. Because if the moral foundation wasn't what it is, it might be one person, 10 votes. One person, 100 votes. One person, if they have a certain bloodline, or look a certain way, or a certain gender, they get 1,000 votes.
Only if they're Democrat.
Right? The point is, one person, one vote is built upon the assumption, morally grounded, that we're all equal. That we all are valued the same. That every single one of us has the power to right the wrongs of our society. And that power should lie in us equally. And only when it does is our society truly free and just. Democracy can only survive as a moral endeavor. It cannot survive any other way. Ideology can never become our moral ideals. And all of us in this room, as Democrats, as Americans, and as human beings, need to start acting like our democracy is more than a political system, but rather an article of faith. An article of faith rooted in love. A strong and demanding love. As Dr. King would tell us, I'm not talking about some Cupid kind of love. I'm talking about a strong, demanding love that brings the very best out of every single one of us despite our human fallibility. Despite it. Hate, it may very well amass power. There's no question, we see that. Hate can have power, but it can never be great. Ever. What does it even mean to make something great? Again. To be great, one must be good. To be great, one must be good. And that means one must be able to love. For one can only be kind and compassionate and decent and honest and have the capacity to be mutually respectful and understanding if one is grounded in love. And now more than ever, we must love each other to restore civility in our public discourse and the dignity of humanity in our shared experiences, to put morality back into democracy. And I want to be clear about something. This is what has made America great. That's the insight. That's the thing the world adores. When the moral foundation is where it is. When people genuinely feel protected and free to be who they are and to pursue their happiness, and confident and secure in that protection of this country and those founding principles, that is the greatness. And it is morally anchored. And the moment we walk away from that, the moment we drift away from that, we're not great. We're something entirely different. And we're not a democracy. And these are the stakes. Yeah, they're big. They're hard. And they're heavy. And I'm not going to act like they're not. We shouldn't. But we can't be dispirited by this either now. That's why focusing on where we came from, what we've overcome, and what it took, and all the sacrifices. And if anybody else in a different predicament at a different time gave up, threw in the towel, walked away, you have to ask yourself, well, where would we be? And be inspired then by their actions. And understand that it takes that effort no matter what. It takes that type of commitment. Now, if you can't tell, as passionate and as determined I might come across, maybe even a little hot, it's all rooted in love. It truly is. Love of family, love of community, love of country, love of democracy. And we've got to get back to a place where we're not just rebuilding things, but rebuilding people. People need to be inspired. You know, champions for democracy, we lead with love, while those who prey upon its affairs, they lead with hate. And as we are confronted with the urgency of now, with the fate of our democracy at stake, we must take care to remember who we are and what we are fundamentally about. We must not engage in negativity. We cannot. We cannot. That is the temptation. It really is. But if you can't tell, I like Dr. King. He says, in a positive thrust for democracy, this is how we must act. In a positive thrust for democracy. We must realize that our greatest defense against threats to our democracy, both at home and abroad, do not begin in any other way until we turn on each other out of hate. The moment we turn back on one another with love and take on the deep and persistent inequities in our country that sow the seeds of division in the first place and do so out of love, that's the moment we get back on the right path. Now you might say, well, this all sounds good, but how do you know? What are you basing this on? What's your personal experience? Well, back in 2018, I decided to run for elected office. I never ran for any seat at any level of government, ever. Going back to kindergarten. Okay? But I was inspired, like a lot of folks were around that time, to figure out how to roll up my sleeves and do what I can. So I left my job as a lawyer in the city, moved back home to upstate with my wife, where we're from, took our 3-year-old boys, and ran in a congressional seat that was 90% white, and the 8th most rural congressional seat in the entire country. There are 435 congressional seats. The 8th most rural congressional seat in the entire country. No Democrat had ever won this seat. And in fact, back in 2016, Trump won this district by 7 points. By 7 points. Oh, I should also mention that I was a hip hop artist. And it was easy to find some of my songs. And there was a picture of me on the cover with a hoodie on, looking very menacing. And so, as you might imagine, in this 90% white rural district, a lot of folks thought, well, we're going to use this against him. We're going to spend millions of dollars and make him out to be a threat and dangerous to this community that he's from, and his wife is from, and where they got married, and raising their kids. We're going to make him out to be a threat. And they tried. And they tried hard, to the point where my mom was calling me in tears, angry and upset. What are you going to do? What are you going to say? Let me say something. To the point where my wife couldn't open up a laptop in front of our little boys to watch something because an ad would pop up that would have me darkened and menacing looking. Right? So we have a choice. Do we lean in with love and keep pressing forward and trust the shared humanity in us all and meet folks where they are, one heart at a time, and eye to eye? Or do we get angry and bitter and yell and scream and point fingers? Well, we trusted the love part. And we knocked on every door we could find. We broke records. We connected. We made phone calls. I spoke from the heart, nonstop, and wouldn't give up, and put my trust in people, put my trust in our heart, put my trust not in our politics, but in our principles, in our values, in our humanity. I'm telling you, when people are around it, it is irresistible when they know it is real. It is irresistible when it is genuine. It is irresistible no matter what your party affiliation is. People want to feel that love. They need to feel that love. And that's what service should be about. Making yourself vulnerable. Taking that on. Carrying that weight. That's service. Particularly for the public. And it's sad. It's sad that we forgot this. And that we let a lot of folks into this club who have no business at all, at the highest levels, in the White House, leading us and our children into the future. And it's disgraceful. And we can stop it. We can course correct at any point, and that's the beauty of our society. That's the beauty of being in a democracy. That's the beauty of being in a free society. We have the power at any moment to remember all of this and to rise up and do what we need to do. We can and we will. So let me just say, I'm located now in conclusion so we can really understand the battlefield here. Because here in New York, we're blessed to be center stage. You know that, right? Yeah. Okay, so let me show you. We're center stage in this fight. You know, we can look out at the world dynamics, we know what's going on with the trends away from democracy internationally and the dark forces that are meant to turn us back to might makes right as opposed to right makes right. You know, the whole thing we fought over in World War II, the greatest generation stood up and just celebrated D-Day, right? So we've been through all this and we know that narrative, we need to stand firm on that narrative. But this is happening around, it's not just domestically, this is happening everywhere, in all parts of the world. But if you start from that point and get down to our country and then get down to New York, you realize, wow, we are really at the center of this fight. Because we gotta win the House back. You see, you can take it, all these big concepts and ideas and thoughts, but you can also distill it down to the action item. And the action item, in one of the most simple, most concrete ways is, we need to take the House back. Now, why you say, well, that's obvious, but here's the thing. If we don't, and we hold the White House, and we hold the Senate, the best case scenario there is another 4 years of chaos, dysfunction, false articles of impeachment, and a continued deterioration of the people's sense of legitimacy when it comes to our democracy. That's the best case scenario. Now, also note, if I look at all these different scenarios, from the White House to the Senate to the House, I have to say, we can really do a lot of good through the House. There's a lot of opportunity for us. I don't want to play probabilities here, because I don't like that. But I can tell you, I like what we can do in terms of getting back the House. And since I like it so much, I'm telling you, we need to do it. And we can do it. And we should. We have 5-seat majority here that we're trying to take back. And we have races right on Long Island. We got 3 back, right? We got 4 we got to get. We got 1 we got to get. By the way, 4, Biden won that seat by 15 points. 15. 1, Trump won it by 1.8 points. This is tight, okay? You go up to my neck of the woods, Hudson Valley, Dutchess County, New York 17. Biden won that by double digits, held by Republican. You go over to New York 19, held by Republican. Biden won that. 22, Biden won that by double digits. How many have I counted up? 5? New York 22, 17, 19, 1, 4. These are must-wins. These are must-wins right here in New York. We got a whole New York 3, obviously. We got a whole New York 18, where I live. And we will. But we got to flip those seats, and we can. The numbers are there for us to flip them. They are. So, I see some folks, I'm looking at you, I'm reading the room. Some of you look exacerbated, almost terrified about the prospect of this. Put that to bed. We don't have time for that. We don't. We do not have time for angst and for what ifs and for how. You know how? We do it. You show up, you make phone calls, you knock down doors, you volunteer, you have heart-to-heart conversation with people, you lead with love, you get out there, you roll your sleeves up, and you work. You don't question, you do. That is how. So, I just want you to appreciate that New York can really get this done. And you should own that fact. Figure out exactly what you can do, both as a collective, but also on an individual level. And zero in on these races, from resources to the door knocking to phone banking to postcard writing. Zero in on your backyard. Zero in on New York, the Empire State. Because we have a role to play in this election cycle, and not just in this cycle, but for generations to come. Make no mistake about it, I look at these other states, Texas, Florida, what agenda they're trying to push on the rest of this country. Well, New York is here to say something about that. Okay? Because we've long been at the forefront of progressive politics, whether it's the LGBTQ, whether it's labor laws, whether it's environmental laws, we've always been at the forefront. NAACP, you go down the list. We've always been out front on every single progressive issue, and it's our time right now to wave the flag for those issues, to stand up, to make sure that we don't forget that, and we do it for ourselves, do it for our children, and do it for our grandchildren, and do it for our country. I love you.
Well, I wasn't kidding, was I? I was telling the truth. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. I'd be remiss if I didn't say Sandy Salad. I left her out. She wasn't in the front row. Sandy was a past president, and she's done so much for this organization over the years. And she's on our board, so please thank Sandy Salad as well. So we're going to do raffles now, and the Lieutenant Governor's going to come around and meet you individually, which is really very generous of him. So thank you all. Thank you for coming. Please support us. Have a good day.